Professor Oduor, I'll invite you to weigh in at this point, right? So let's talk about controlling agriculture. Part of the concerns that have been raised by Raila Odinga is that this seed, right? Let's say you said if Malawi likes our cassava, then we export, right? So if we import this seed, for example, from the US, right? It's patented. What does that mean for our biodiversity? Because that was one of his concerns, that by way of pollination, this seed will impact what is indigenous to Kenya.
Well, thank you. And this is a very interesting aspect of things again. You know, the moment Kenya accepted to be part of the global trade, that we are interested in exporting our goods and services to the global arena, then we also must be fair enough that the participants within that global arena must also actually sell to Kenya. So we sell out there and the other guys also sell to us. The issue about who owns the technology and who probably controls it, from where I sit, is an issue. Because as a government, you have a responsibility to protect your people, all right, and give them supply and goods at a competitive rate. And therefore, from where I sit, I actually find it a little convenient when people, when the GMO debate starts and you hear people saying, who is controlling the seeds? Because where have you been that you're not controlling your own seeds? Do we stop importing vehicles in this country because they are all imported from, say, Japan? Do we make vehicles in this country? Who controls the technology around making vehicles? And why are we not talking about it? It's because we actually have an option of importing from Japan, from EU, from China, and any other place. We look at this technology is good, and we need it, and therefore, where is it cheaper? So the control about who supplies, the supply and demand, is a completely different debate. And by the way, at that particular point, when we are talking about who controls and who doesn't, it means you have first of all accepted it is safe, you just want it, only that you are wondering whether it's at a convenient cost. You get what I mean? So that's a different discussion. And that discussion can go on and on in many things, including the drugs that we import. Do we manufacture drugs? They are Pfizer's, they are the Maxeronos, they are the Novartis. Do we own the drugs? We don't. And how have we succeeded in maintaining that? It is because we also say, when you bring, we also allow independence. And there is no monopoly. We will look at. And even right now, we are not saying that we are only importing maize or GMO maize from the US. If there is a cheaper one in Brazil, we go for it. If there is one in South Africa, because they are growing it, we go for it. If there is one in Nigeria, remember Nigeria is also growing GM. We go pick from Nigeria. There's nothing stopping us from picking GM from Ghana. There's nothing stopping us from picking GM from Malawi. Nothing stops us from picking GM from Sudan and Ethiopia. These are African countries. So the discussion right now, only that in Sudan, they are cultivating GM cotton. And that means if we were short of actually textile in this country and we wanted to revamp our textile industry, we would go to the US, we would go to Sudan because they are growing GM cotton. So it is just unfortunate that probably our neighbors that are growing GM are actually not growing maize for this particular point, but it comes from South Africa. That's why it's easier to pick from South Africa if that goes on. So the debate around controls is at another level. Honestly said, when the seeds get to the country, and you know there is a difference between importation of seeds and importation of GM food. Because the seed, even in this country, why don't we actually generate seeds individually? The seeds that, Olive, you are holding, that you are calling special, and you call them that they're indigenous, it is fine. I can tell you, in another 100 years, they will be gone. Because evolution is a natural process. It happens. That's why we are not looking the same as our great-grandfathers. And nobody genetically mutated us or modified us. That is a natural process. All we are saying is that if you have this, and I'm challenging the public, if you have this seed that you really feel it is so dear and it's so good, yet we still have a problem with food security, with your very indigenous seed, please, there is a platform for the seed bank, which I would advise each and every country and every person to submit it to the seed bank so that they are able to control this forever, for eternity. And if there is need, we just bulk it and keep it. Because that is important for us as scientists, because that is a default setting for the pool of genes that would be useful for the future. let me say this, and these are the basics of life. When we talk about GMO approved are good, or and that's the position, it's because we must behave as scientists like a wise cat that does not eat a pregnant rat.
What?
That means for sustainability reasons. I don't know why it feels very convenient for people to think that scientists are here to kill everyone. We live here. These countries, we have wives and kids, and our relatives are here. We are not going anywhere. And therefore, we are here to solve a problem. There are instances when a pregnant rat would eat, actually, a wise cat would eat a pregnant, rat, because when she or, looks around and finds that there are 20 of them pregnant, then you can say, I can enjoy one because there are 19 to go. What am I saying? I am saying that we are so careful as scientists. We want sustainability in food. We want sustainability of lives of Kenyans themselves and many other people who are living in this world, that we must make sure that everything we do in the lab goes through the requisite, excuse me, may I grab this a little bit?
Go ahead.
That goes through the international platforms and regulations that Prof Miano has already talked about. Look, for instance, and because we don't want to go technical in this platform, because there are a lot of technical things we do in the lab which are not necessary for the public, because it just complicates the whole debate. GMO, for instance, you see right now we have a problem with drought. Mm-hmm. But because somebody would say that, I think maize would give us very nice flowers. Yeah, and therefore we would pick, genes from a rose flower and put it in maize and hope to get some nice flowers that are coming from, maize. That time, that maize will be called genetically modified maize for purposes of getting flowers. Then the question will come, at that particular point, like right now, should we import maize that gives us flowers from the rose? And that is what we are saying, that GMO must be evaluated for the traits that it brings on board. What is it that we need right now? If we had GM maize right now, globally, that is drought tolerant, it will be here. Because we want to take it to Northeastern to grow it, because that's where there's a lot of drought. And that is the reason why we keep saying as scientists, please involve us in the discussion around this GMO. We know it. It is the only thing, and we have been trained through the taxpayers' money. And therefore, we owe this country a responsibility in terms of getting to know what comes in here. And even now, let me also say that as much as we are talking about importation of these foods, that GM food will not just pop in, that it's coming from the US and it is here. They have to apply. National Biosafety Authority is waiting for those applications, because you can't just wake up right now and say, I want to import maize from South Africa. And what,
so you're saying there are safeguards? There
are a lot of safeguards around this that sometimes I wonder why are we not very particular. But something very important. Prof Muller said that we need to actually take advantage of the internal infrastructure that we have in the country. And therefore, if the debate around the seeds come on board, then the government itself, we're negotiating for this technology, just like they negotiate for other very many technologies. We're only talking about GMO. The government is talking about how do we make sure that our vaccines are here and how do we negotiate for that. The government is looking at how do we ensure that even the other things that we import for the country, fertilizers, are negotiated. GMO is just one of them. And therefore, we need at this point in time, when we are negotiating with the sources of these technologies, we can also take advantage of the fact that we have infrastructure within the Simlaw or Kenya Seeds. We have other seed companies. To what extent can they partner in this technology so that they also benefit, and we benefit from the infrastructure that has been created over the years?